The topic of my uh, discourse would be sound in the faith. So we're gonna talk about this very important grace which we are to develop because it gets at we live at such age and such time. So it's needed. Without faith, it said like Bible says we cannot please the God. Um, So look at this. Actually, the topic of this subject is derived from the Titus 1 verse 13, where is Apostle Paul given instruction to his younger brother Titus, who was left over on a Crete, that's an island in the Mediterranean Sea, and he was in charge of those churches. So he was giving him instruction how to deal with those people over there, because as the way he described them, it's from not the best way. And of course they're being Gentiles, so they need a lot of corrections. So to teach them, it has to be some a good system, so they would develop correctly. So actually, as I mentioned, because in the time we live in, except love, there is no other grace so often and thoroughly treated in the Bible as a faith. While love is and always will be the greatest grace during the faith dispensation, such as the present one, faith is the most important grace, for it is now not only the foundation of all the graces, but also is the most indispensable one. Because of this being a faith dispensation. To make the subject clear, it is necessary to explain the meaning of the word faith. And I'll try to do it. In the Bible, this word is used in actually three senses. So first, it's what one believes. Second is the quality by which one believes. And the third, the quality which it is first and second senses produce, which is faithfulness. It is because of having these three senses that faith is the most important grace in a faith dispensation. Let us look a little more closely into these three senses of faith. So as we look in the first one, the first sense is what one believes. So the truth people, as us, probably, would say, my faith is the present truth. The divine plan is now unfolding. The Bible teaching is now due to be understood. And we know that there's another denomination of Christians, Christian in this world. So the other denomination like Presbyterian, Lutheran, Episcopalian, Anglican churches would bring another points of their teachings as foundations to their belief. As Brother Kelly mentioned earlier. So because he grew up as a Catholic, so he could say more probably about what Roman Catholic believes and what they base their belief on. This will be sufficient to clarify the first sense of the word faith in common and ordinary use. And the Bible also uses this word in the sense of what one believes. For example, Jude exhorts us in Jude verse 3 to contend earnestly for the faith once delivered unto the saints. Then also Paul and Barnabas exhorted the brethren in Acts 14 verse 22 to continue in the faith. Also, Paul gives another exhortation to the Corinthians in 1 Corinthians 16, verse 13, saying, "Watch ye, stand fast in the faith." And again, he encourages them in 2 Corinthians 13, verse 5. He's saying, "Examine yourself whether ye be in a faith." He also desires for the brethren that they may be sound in the faith. That's what I just took for the topic of this discourse in Titus 1:13. In Luke 18:88, Jesus asks whether at his second advent shall he find faith in earth. We'll see like all these mentioning by the apostles and the Jesus himself. That's a very important grace to develop. These passages prove the first sense of faith as given above. So we go to the second one. The second sense of the word faith for the Christians, it is the quality by which one believes. Brother Russell's definition of the word in this sense is, faith is a mental appreciation of and heart's reliance upon God and Christ. This is proved by Paul in Hebrew 11, verse 1. Faith, which read, faith is the confidence, or using that, sorry, the dogs, or using the expression of Brother Russell, heart's reliance. I mean, the faith is the confidence, which is mean heart reliance of things hoped for, the proof of things not seen, and those things which we were not seen. So like it's mental appreciation of those things. The respects in which we have mental appreciation of and heart reliance upon God and Christ as to their beings, characters, words, and works, as to all of which in them we must have mental appreciation and heart reliance if we have faith in them. According to this definition, there are two parts of faith in its second sense. The first one is mental appreciation, and second is heart reliance. And each of these has three features. To mental appreciation belongs as its parts or feature knowledge, understanding, and belief. We must know of things we believe it. Even as Paul shows, as he asked in Romans 10:14, how shall they believe in him of whom they have not heard? We have to hear of something to believe in that. So without knowledge, there can be no belief. But knowledge is not enough to constitute belief. For many have knowledge of things that they do not believe. For example, we know of such ideas like evolution, higher criticism, atheism, agnosticism, materialism, pantheism, deism, and many more, which exist in this world. We know of them, but we don't believe them. So knowledge is not enough to constitute the belief. Between knowledge and belief comes understanding. We must have an understanding of a principle or a proposition or a theory before we can believe it. For if we know of it but do not understand what it means, we cannot be said to believe it. So to have a mental appreciation of God and Christ in their persons, characters, words, and works, we must understand what these things mean. For Paul says in Romans 10:17 that faith cometh by understanding, where the word render hearing actually in the Bible, but should be render understanding. As it apparent from the fact that the word of Christ is here said to be source. The word make itself understood to the attentive head. If we don't pay attention, we just hear it, like so doesn't mean that we would understand, but like if we do pay attention, so we might understand the things. But many people know of certain things and understand what they mean, but do not believe them to be true. There are many people knows of future probation and understand what it means, but do not believe it to be true. So another step must be taken to complete mental appreciation, belief to what someone knows and understand as to God and Christ in their persons, characters, words, and works. If he so does, he has the first part of faith, mental appreciation. But mental appreciation in its three parts is not enough to constitute biblical faith. As the quality by which we believe, for the devils have all three of these features of mental appreciation. As James says in James 2 verse 19, the devil also believe and tremble. Yet, who would say that they measure up to the quality of biblical faith? The reason why they fall short of faith is that they do not exercise its second ingredient, heart's reliance. For the mental appreciation of faith is merely its head part, whereas it has a heart part, which is really its superstructure. While its mental appreciation, it is foundation. What is implied in the heart's reliance will be manifest as we study its ingredients. Like those of mental appreciation, its parts are three. First is confidence, trust, or full assurance. Second, appropriation. And third, responsiveness. Each of these will well repay a closer study. As its first ingredient, heart reliance has confidence, trust, or full assurance as to what it knows of, understand about, and believes as to God and Christ in their persons, characters, words, and works. It has no doubts of them, but most heartily and fully is persuaded of their truth. No matter what may be urged with however much plausibility against such knowledge, understanding, and belief, it heartily trusts, is fully persuaded, has full assurance of them. So if we know that the truth and we are confident in it, so like we, even in more research, like if somebody tried to lead us away from it, we are withstanding it. The second ingredient of heart's reliance is appropriation. It means one must accept these things, especially the promises in the word applicable to him as his own. Many have confidence trust, full persuasion of or assurance of the truth of these things, and believe that others have the privilege to appropriate them to themselves, but do not believe that they are promised to them. They do not appropriate these promises to themselves. They fail to take the second step of heart's reliance, and thus break down us to full faith. What is necessary to take this second step of heart reliance is to appropriate them to oneself, saying, they are offered to me, and with full accept God's offer to forgive him his sins and to impute Christ's righteousness to him as made to him. If he truly believes and accepts it as his, appropriate it as his, make it his own. Similarly, as to the promises on the sanctification and deliverance, his heart's confidence must be that they are true for him, and he must accept them by willpower in his own. This feature of heart's reliance is beautifully described by Paul in Hebrew 11, verse 13, when he spoke of Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, and Jacob embracing the pertinent promises, taking them to themselves and hugging them closely as belonging to themselves. The third ingredient of heart reliance is responsiveness. In other words, acting out the implication of the things of which we are fully assured and have appropriated to ourselves. So in the faith justification, our full assurance and appropriation imply that we respond by giving up sin and participating in righteousness. If one says that he has full assurance as God's offer to forgive him and to impute Christ's righteousness to him, if he truly believes and has appropriated these promises to himself, but give himself over to a life of sin and neglect of righteousness, he does not exercise the fullness of heart reliance. For it implies that he responds to the justifying grace of God by responding to its implication, to give up sin and practice righteousness. Similarly, the acceptance of God's grace of sanctification implies as to full assurance and appropriation that one continue in deadness to self and world will and aliveness to God's will. To remain so dead as and so alive while laying down his humanity into death in God's service and in developing a Christ-like character, as the responsiveness that such assurance and appropriation imply. Similarly, in deliverance, with the same deadness and aliveness, this assurance and appropriation imply that we make the response of fighting sin, error, selfishness, worldliness, and that in and about us as they are led by devil, the world, and the flesh, obeying the battle orders of Jesus, our captain. And if in justification, sanctification, and deliverance, we do not make the above described responsiveness, we fail to attain the fullness of heart reliance in these steps of the Christian life. In studying what Hebrew 11 says of the ancient worthies there named, it will be noted that in every case, responsiveness to the implication of mental appreciation and heart's reliance is set forth. Thus, Abel brings an acceptable sacrifice. Enoch walked with a God. Noah builds the ark. Isaac, no, Abraham leaves Ur and pilgrims all the way to Canaan. Also, Abraham offers Isaac. Moses is hid by his parents. Also, Moses acts as an Israelite and not as an Egyptian. Later, forsakes Egypt, keeps the Passover, passes through the Red Sea, and also Israel encompasses Jericho to its destruction. And the same responsiveness is implied in the course of Gideon, Barak, Samson, David, Samuel, and the rest of the prophets. Indeed, there is but a short step from the responsiveness feature of the heart's reliance of faith to the third sense of the word, faithfulness. For when our mental appreciation in its three phases and our heart's reliance in its three phases have full possession of us, they make us faithful. Since to be full of faith is to be faithful. By faithfulness, as the third sense of the word faith, we understand a loyalty to God and Christ in their persons, characters, words, and works. In enlightenment, justification, sanctification, and deliverance to be meant. In this sense of the word, it includes loyalty to God and Christ in all life's affairs, in the four stages of the Christian life, in the exercise of all the affections, all the graces, in all the modes of our characters, processes, in all our sufferings, and in all our trials and tests. In the sense of faithfulness, it is without the limit. The one universal grace, the one that works not only through all the other graces, but through every other expression of the Christian life. We can say, while self-control is almost universal grace and patience is still more nearly a universal grace, faithfulness is the one unlimited universal grace. It is that which spells overcoming in Revelation 2, verse 10. We all remember, be faithful to the end and give you the crown of life. No matter how much one may have attained in other features of Christ's character, if he lacks in this grace, all his Christianity in vain. He has made a failure of his calling and election. So, brethren, in all our getting, let us get this quality, and it is of all the one that is tested above all, since it is the chief thing that God seeks in us, the indispensable things that he seeks in overcomers. And I wish you and want us all to develop this grace, is because it's in this the faith era or faith dispensation. This is the most important grace. So let us keep working on that. And God bless you all. Thank you.